Hi, I'm Megan.
I'm Colin, and this is Pet Sitter Confessional,
an open and honest discussion about life as a pet sitter.
Brought to you by Time to Pet and Pet Perennials. Many of us dream of working with our best friend in our business. Well, Lalka and Amanda, owners of SoHo Hound, are doing just that. And together with their backgrounds in merchandising, communications, and event plannings, plus their passion for pets, they're making a wonderful business. Let's get started.
Yes, thank you so much for having us too. We really appreciate it. We're excited. My name is Amanda, and I am born and raised in West Palm. I went to Florida State University and moved to New York after that to follow my dreams and, all of that fun stuff. And learned a lot along the way, had managing jobs, ended up in a corporate buying office. And after that, transferred back down to Florida to be closer to family, and for the most part, finished, what would be called my corporate career to start SoHo Hound, which we'll get further into, I know, but that was a huge part of my career growth, all of these things. SoHo Hound started with Lalka, and the rest is history. And we're excited to get into more of that with you.
So my name is Lalka, and I just want to make a note how everyone always asks, how do you pronounce it? So I will start there. It's Lalka, so it's Lal and then Ka. And this actually might help a lot of people who probably know me and still are confused on how to pronounce it. But it is a Polish name. It means doll. And so I get that question a lot. So I love putting it out there. But I am born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. And I am very fortunate to have great immigrant parents who were entrepreneurs. And I think their spirit led me to where I am today. I graduated from Florida State, which is where I met Amanda. We'll go into that. But I left after Florida State and decided to get into the event production world. So I was a senior producer in New York City for 10 years. I pretty much traveled all over the world, 60 hours, did a lot of amazing events for clients, also Google, Maybelline, and you name it. So it was experiential marketing, worked with a lot of Fortune 100 to 500 companies. After 10 years in New York, that feels about 7 years in Florida. So I decided to make the change, leave the city, try out Florida. My parents are actually here as well. So it was nice to connect with them. I had friends down here. And so Amanda and I kind of regrouped after our Florida State, New York City days and decided, you know what, let's follow our passion. We love animals. And so Hound was born.
Now, something that I love about both of your stories is you have this background in merchandising, communications, and event planning. How did you make that leap into running and operating a pet sitting and dog walking business?
That's actually helped us a lot along the way. We have strengths that, we use on a daily basis that are so useful, from, ordering apparel for the staff to, events and things like that. And also just being in the corporate agency world, having the background of A, being professional, and B, sort of knowing just how to communicate with clients, with staff, with the community, and not, starting from square one and being like, where do we start with this? It was sort of like we already had a jumping off point. And for SoHo Hound, it was using all of those career things that we had learned and just using them in a more fun way. And also for something that we love and we're so passionate about, which is animals.
I agree with Amanda. Same thing. I think some of the key things for me is I was fortunate enough to, as a senior producer working in New York City and LA, that experience alone as a young producer was something that gave me strength in staff management. by having the different team members, but also vendors that I manage on a daily basis. I also learned that building relationships are the number one thing. And that is something that you need either in your business, in your friendships, with family. Just having that connection is so important. So utilizing that with my clients, my teammates, my vendors, I just transferred that over to these current clients in Florida. And we did a lot of volunteer work with the company that I was at in New York City, but I also personally volunteer. And I think the one thing that Amanda and I love connecting on, getting together with the community and having that partnership, working with the Humane Society of Tampa Bay, working with Pet Resource Center, partnering up with them and also other local dog walking companies and also other small businesses. That's what gave us a leg up. A lot of people are so scared to go out and connect. That's the number one thing, because right now, 7 years later, we're living off so many referrals, and we're so lucky just because they can see all our hard work. But we make it a point to do that daily check-in, weekly check-in, whatever it may be, and connect. And we just honestly love making new people and new friends in the community.
A lot of us have a hard time making those connections because I hear this an awful lot in the pet sitting world is, I'm more of a pet person and I'm not really a people person. And both of your backgrounds lend themselves to working with people and building those relationships. What advice would you give to somebody who doesn't have that kind of background, and how can they learn to be better at that kind of thing?
We would definitely recommend taking advantage of all of the resources in your community. When we first came on the scene in South Tampa, we joined networking groups. We talked to dog walkers that, were our seniors in the field at that time, because it was all brand new to us. And we came into town. There were dog walking companies that had been around for 6, 7, 8, 9 years already. And using that more as a platform of, hey, we're new. We'd love to get to know you and learn about your company, instead of, hey, we're your new competition, because we learned really quickly that there's more dogs than any of us could ever walk. And so it's not really competition. It's more of camaraderie, and just learning, how they communicate with clients and things like that, talking, like Lalka said, to all of the rescue people. As most pet people know, it's a very small community. So once you tap in to one network or one, foundation or rescue, you pretty much have met most of them. We joined happy hours, we joined young professional groups, things like that, to where you can become more confident in talking to people, not only about your business, but learning about their business. And you find where people are so fascinated, where you're thinking to yourself, oh, we just started a little dog walking business, nobody's going to care. And they're like, wait, what? You started a business from nothing and you quit your, amazing jobs. That's just something that people are so fascinated with. And we just did it because we thought it would be fun and we would be really good at it. And turns out, it's just really interesting to people. So I think give yourself a little more credit and get out there and just be really confident in what you do, because people are interested, and also they want to learn more. And also they have a million friends, and that's potential clients.
And one thing I was going to say to that is, this is such a fascinating industry. When you tell someone, we own a pet sitting, dog walking company, people are immediately fascinated, because you always hear the typical 9-to-5 corporate job, whatever they're doing in terms of HR, data entry. And so when they immediately hear what Man and I do, they want to know more. It's unique. It's different. For us, we don't have a storefront. It's not daycare or boarding. So everything is in home. So we're on the go. We're running around, driving around all day. We have an amazing team. So the thing that I think sets us apart, and obviously our background helps so much, is the fact that we're extroverts in this pet world. And so when you want to connect with others, when you want to speak, when you are so excited to ask questions, to go back and forth, speak on panels, get interviewed, Amanda and I have been doing that for the last 7 years and just trying to get our name out there. We also have this platform where we're able to speak. And so we can also, let people know and inform them about rescues, because that's something that's extremely important to us. So I think trying to get into this job and being shy or an introvert makes it harder. And those are a lot of what the pet world is about. So we're always encouraging people, go out there, speak, connect, make sure you just talk to someone. If it's once a week that you put that on your list, don't feel like you have to do it every single day. Don't feel like you have to put a lot of pressure on yourself, because I think that's when people shut down and they actually go the opposite way. Just because you may not be an extrovert doesn't mean you can't connect with the community. And then you'll actually find that there's a lot of pet people out there who have the exact same fears. And so you end up meeting new friends. So for us, we're fortunate with our background. It was much easier. But for others, we just want to encourage them, just say hello, talk to people. It's really great to connect on so many different levels.
Yeah, what I'm hearing from both of you is have more confidence in yourself. Like you are better at this than you may ever realize. And you're not alone in these fears, and that there are other people out there, even, other business owners or even clients, right, that you can get connected to that are going to be experiencing these same things. So it's going ahead and putting yourself out there. Like there's really not as much risk as we build up in our minds about going out and getting connected with people.
100%. When you go to the meet and greets with the clients and we walk in and, we talk a lot and we're loud and, we're really comfortable with the animals and not shy and things like that. And people love that. If you walk into their home and you're nervous and you're scared and you're not really sure about your services and you're like, I just started, I don't know what's going on, they're going to be so frightened. But even at the beginning, we didn't know what we were doing, but we were just told them what we do, even though some of it we hadn't even done yet. And some of it we made up as we went, but that's what they want to hear, because you're in their home with their pet. They don't want someone that's nervous and, like, I don't know what I'm doing, or, I don't know what tomorrow holds. It's like, yes, we're here, we're in town, and this is what we do now. And so we're just, we're going to do it 100%. So I think that's the majority of it. Is, you're right. It's just the confidence. And, if you don't know what you're doing, you'll figure it out, but that's for you to know.
Yeah, especially for a startup. I think, what Amanda, like the beginning weeks, months, even the first year, everyone looks at it, they're like, you have an amazing background. You guys both, college graduates, you had successful careers. You were in New York City for so many years. So, of course it comes natural and easy to you both. But I think that's something that, we do have that benefit. However, we were still nervous. We still had things that we were trying to flush out. We still weren't sure what's the right pricing, what's the services we want to do, how often. And, we learned very quickly that the first year, as we were moving and learning every single day, there are things that just didn't make sense. And we were like, a year later, we're like, you know what, maybe we shouldn't say yes to everything, because we haven't slept in days. And so, Amanda and I learned that from the beginning. And so no matter what your background is, it's not necessarily what college you went to or who you worked for or what job you did previously. It's really just finding that passion, loving it, and making sure that you're going to do that every day, because it's so much work. But don't panic that you might not have all the answers in the beginning. It literally unravels every day that goes by. And when you learn something new, even if it's a mistake you made, you're not going to do that again, because you remember how much hard work it was to fix it. So it's just kind of an evolving process. We always want to encourage everyone, don't be scared. People don't jump into things because they're so nervous. But, once you do it, you just take it day by day. And till this day, 7 years later, Amanda and I are still learning, still making mistakes. And that's just true honesty. It's not perfect. Everyone's like, you have a great system. It's done. It's perfect. There's so many blood, sweat, and tears in the background. There's so many long nights, early mornings. There's so many last minute emergencies, problem solving. We're still, involved into the day to day. And, that could be a good thing and a bad thing. But Amanda and I just love being part of the company so much. And, it's something that we just always encourage everyone. Just go out there, try it out, and don't panic. You won't have all the answers. Fortunately, there's Google, so you can Google a lot too.
I want to step back. 7 years ago, you both are in your corporate businesses, in merchandising, event planning, communications. Why did you decide it was time to take that step and go A, into business together, and B, start a pet sitting and dog walking company? What was either the trigger or the thought behind that?
We were on the client side of the pet industry, having, jobs where we traveled a lot and needed pet sitters of our own, whether it be in a boarding facility or hiring dog walkers. And we wouldn't have been able to do our jobs without it. So when we both got to a point, and it was just very simultaneous and very organic, where I was no longer fulfilled in my job. I was, having a successful career, and there was absolutely nothing wrong with it. I just felt in my heart that there was something more, and I was young enough and, was single and didn't have a family where I needed to, stay in a career and support them or anything. And there was just something pulling at my heartstrings saying, this isn't it. Of course, you can always go back because, but you never know if you don't try something. And, I think, and Lalka can speak on her part, but we both sort of just came to this sort of in the same point in our life. And we didn't know what we were going to do. We needed a break. We literally took a break, a summer off, and just brainstormed and, prayed and talked to family, and just knew something would work out because we were both smart and knew if nothing came about, we could go back to our other jobs or we could do something completely different. But it just turned out where this just completely fell on our lap. We were visiting friends and, we were visiting friends in South Tampa, and we're talking to people and walking our dogs, and people were actually asking us if we were dog walkers. And, we love animals, but, we don't have a pet background. We just had dogs of our own. And it was just this divine intervention where it was, maybe we are dog walkers. Maybe this is, what we're supposed to do. And maybe we'll try it. Maybe it'll last a week. Maybe it'll last, a month, year. But it just really, when people say things just work out and are, work out how they're supposed to, this literally just fell right into our laps, and we just completely ran with it.
Yeah. And just to touch on that, I think the one thing that, since we have the audience here, I want to tell everyone, people have this huge fear of failing. And I always tell this, and I give this advice weekly to friends and family and just other people. I feel like the failure is not trying. It's not trying and then not succeeding. Because to Amanda's point, the one thing my mom always told me, no one can take your education or your experience away from you. You can get fired, you can get laid off, and all that can be stripped from you in terms of your job and your paycheck. But one thing, no matter what, your education, your experience will always stay with you. So, I would like to just put that out there because I think that's so crucial. People are just so nervous of trying because they're going to fail. And that's what scares them to do that. But the excitement is to try. If it does not work out, you try again and you figure something out. And worst case, you can always do what you did in your other job. But I think when you go back after you've tried something, realizing that it's still not making you happy, you're going to make that leap. And I think it's, for me personally, leaving a 6-figure job in New York City, living in SoHo, and having this amazing, glamorous, life that everyone saw on the front end, deep down, it wasn't something that was fulfilling. When, like I said, doing 10 years in New York City just feels like 80 years. So it was something that after 10 years, you get so burnt out. And it was at a point where I loved my job so much. And I know that I was good at it, but I was so unhappy, and it was starting to show in my job. And once you're unhappy with your job and it pours and spills into your everyday, when you are waking up on Sunday and you're dreading the whole day because it's Monday and the Sunday blues are hitting you, I think that's when you have to reevaluate your life, because you only have one of them and you want to make sure that you're fulfilled and happy. And so for me, going through that every day and constantly complaining about my job, and it wasn't fun anymore. I loved it, but there's a difference. We have to separate it. When you work a job too much, when you're exhausted, when you're traveling and you're not even sure what day it is, you have to take a step back and unwind. And so I think Amanda and I both did unwinding at the exact same time. Coincidentally, we left our companies and happened to, reconnect again in Florida. And to be honest, we loved animals, so we knew that was a passion of ours. But for people to come up to us and ask us if we're dog walkers when we're just walking our friends' dogs, that was just, I feel like God's in there saying, hey guys, I think you're on to something. Maybe you should dive a little bit deeper.
Yeah, it's one of those. Well, if people are already assuming we're dog walkers, I guess that's something we can go ahead and pursue.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it was interesting because we were like, do you guys not have dog walkers here? Because it just seemed like there was a lack of it. And we were in this, Hyde Park Village, which is a very common area here. And we were like, no, we're just, we're taking a break. We're hanging out. These are our friends' dogs. These are our dogs. And so it just got us thinking. It's like, if people are coming up to strangers who have pets and seeking service, do they not have that here? And so that kind of when it unfolded everything, where Amanda and I started researching and seeing what's out there. But I think coming from being clients, because if I didn't have my dog walker in New York City, my poor dog would maybe not be here today, because I was traveling and working so much that until this day, I think about Yvonne. Shout out to Yvonne in SoHo for all the New Yorkers listening. But she was the most amazing dog walker, pet sitter ever. And so it's an inspiration of like what she did and how hard she worked. I think about that till this day, 7 years later. And without her, I couldn't survive. And Amanda used daycare and boarding so much as well for her pets. So we just took all the experience from the client side and we flipped it and then grew our clientele.
Have you heard about Time to Pet? Chris Ann from Raining Cats and Dogs has this to say.
Becoming a Time to Pet client has been a game changer for us. We can give our pet services clients real-time, cloud-based information they never imagined they'd be interested in. And most importantly, to me personally, I can better manage my company and look forward to more. And not a small thing, Time to Pet is responsive to my requests for new features and modifications to existing ones.
If you're looking for new pet sitting software, give Time to Pet a try. Our listeners get 50% off their first 3 months when you go to timetopet.com/confessional. Coming from your corporate backgrounds and experiences, what's it like running your dog walking and pet sitting company? And I guess, do you feel successful in doing that?
Well, at first it's scary because you make the phone calls to your family and tell them what you're going to do. And they're like, well, good luck and, Godspeed, but you're crazy, right? But
nervous breakdown, I think was the word my mom used. She's like, you're going through a midlife crisis. I'm like, right. Midlife? I'm in my early 30s at the time. So yeah, scary.
Yeah, it is scary, but you do have to sort of have that faith. And for both of us, we just really had a peace about it. And if it had seemed wrong, I think we both would have felt that. Or if one of us was like, I don't know about this, I think it would have been different. But we were both just really gung-ho about it and felt really good about it. And, talking about what's more important in your life, happiness is what's important. You don't join the pet industry. For everybody listening, we all know this. You don't join the pet industry to make money or get rich. You join the pet industry to be with animals and do something that you absolutely love. And that, the animals give us more than we can ever give them. They love you unconditionally. They don't care what you look like. They don't care if you're, brush your hair. Thank goodness. They don't care what you're wearing. They don't care, if you're having a bad day, they make your day better. And that is just so priceless. There are tough days. There are days where, we're like, what did I do? I can't believe, how much little money we're making. And then some days, it's like, this is what we're supposed to do. But at the end of the day, we 100% feel successful. We never thought this would last 7 years. Not that we didn't think we could do it, but just when you start something like this, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if, there's not going to be a need anymore. You don't know if there's going to be a big company comes in and, wipes you out. It's just so much unknown, especially, I'm sure we'll get into what happened this year. It's just completely unknown. And, we're just more than anything proud of what we've built, and just proud of all the clients that we've made happy, proud that, people can go on vacation and go to work every day and not worry about their animals, and excited that we're coming, and be happy to open their checkbooks, to us and our staff, because without that, you don't have anything. You don't have this client excited to hire you and telling all of their friends, it's really tough out there. You have a good reputation, you're golden. But, just one or two clients who weren't happy, that's, you don't want that in this industry, because especially where we live, it's very small, which is good and bad. Everybody knows everyone, and we've just used that to our full advantage. And, that's really how it's worked out for us here in South Tampa.
And I think one thing, to really touch on is, unfortunately, it's 2020 and we're still speaking like this, which is, that money equals happiness. And I think, unfortunately, that's the thing that we all need to remind ourselves, that it's not financials that are going to make us happy. Now, when I say that a lot, people are like, that's not true. If you have money, then you can travel. If you have money, you can buy the boat or go out to eat. And they start listing all these stuff. And I'm like, you're listing everything that is, a majority is materialistic, but the other items, they'll fade. And so you'll create those memories. But if you have to always go back to the job you do not like, what does it matter that you're traveling or getting away or going out to dinner or buying that special person watch, etc.? So it doesn't matter in that sense, because if you have to still go back to that job you're not happy with to make that money, that's not fulfillment. And so the fulfillment part of it, and I tell everyone, and it's such a cliche, and I think people say it too much that no one believes anymore. It's like, oh, if you find what you do and you love it, and that'll make you happy. It's absolutely true. And the reason why people constantly say that is because we're living it. And so when you take away, you strip everything from you, whatever, if it's the big city life, your hair, your makeup, your money, your purses, all that stuff, it doesn't matter at the end of the day, because if you're waking up to a company you build, you love, or you find a company that you can partner up together, and maybe even company culture where you're excited to get up, you're ready for the next project, you're actually not having the Sunday blues. That's the most important thing. So I ask everyone here, is like, if you're dreading work on Sunday to go into work on Monday, that's something you need to reevaluate. And everyone's like, well, what do? I need to pay rent. I need to pay my mortgage, I have kids, car payment. Absolutely. That all makes sense. But you can still find that thing that you love and excel at it. Because what happens is you need to start with the foundation of happiness and build from there. The money will come, because if you do something you love and you grow and you expand and you build a partner up with the company, all that will come into place. But when people start with money and that's all they're looking for, unfortunately, their happiness goes in the back seat. And to us, that's the most important part of it.
Yeah, you start making sacrifices in the sake of money as opposed to your personal happiness or the happiness of people around you. And you start living outside of your purpose, and that doesn't go too well, right? You face burnout, which both of you sound like you experienced in your other jobs, right? Because you were living outside of where your passion actually was. You had all the other materialistic impacts of what quote unquote success looks like, but now able to make everything aligned. Everything just fits, and it sounds like it's been a much better experience for both of you over the past 7 years.
Yeah, it has been amazing. We're so fortunate. I mean, I'd be also lying to say not doing hair, makeup, and being in gym clothes every day has really sold us to it. We're in Florida, so we have beautiful weather. So we don't really miss that too much. So there is that perk. So we, a couple of those dollars we may have lost, we did benefit with that when everyone looks at us and they're like, oh my God, you're in gym clothes and you have your hair in a ponytail and you're very relaxed and, laid back look. I'm like, you know what? We're bosses and this is our work clothes. So that's the fun part about it, I'll say.
Yeah. Earlier, you mentioned how both of you are still involved in some day-to-day operations for the company. But tell us about your team and how that hiring process was for you when you first got started.
Yeah, the hiring process, is definitely something that is scary at first. We do know from talking to dog walking companies and also, listening to podcasts and reading things that sort of letting your baby go, to somebody else's hands is always really scary. For us, it was just something that needed to happen. We started, the website, and after we started the website, and it was official that we, weren't just on Facebook and it wasn't just our flyers everywhere. We really started to grow. And so the opportunity showed itself and we started hiring. We didn't start hiring in droves, but we definitely built up a decent team and it never stopped from there. The most staff we've had is 20 and right now we have 8. Which we're really proud of just because of the year we've had where, in March we had to cut everybody, unfortunately, and that was really sad. And since June, we've been building back up our staff. So the hiring process is really scary. At first, you want that perfect person. You want to clone yourself. You want someone to love the company as much as you do. And you know that you can send them off into the world and they're going to think like you and they're going to do everything like you do. But the fact of the matter is that's really, really hard to find. And so you hire some people that don't work out and then you sort of find a formula. You find out that, oh yeah, we do need to do background checks. Yes, we do need to talk to references. Yeah, we do need to tap into, our staff that we already have and tell them to post, tell them to ask their church friends, tell them to ask, their sororities and, roommates and things like that. But it's definitely the most challenging piece, as I'm sure everybody who owns a dog walking company would agree, because you can't clone yourself. And we talk about that all the time is, God, I just wish we could, because we would have 200 staff, we would be all over the country and it would just be like easy peasy done. But the staff definitely makes it so you can, keep growing and doing what you love. So there is a fine balance and you find what works. For us, what's worked is college because of that flexibility. You can't obviously have a 9 to 5 and then help us for our lunch walks. That's not going to work. So, we've tapped into yoga teachers. We've tapped into teachers who, just teach at night. We've done all kinds of people. And it's best to have, and we learned to have a diverse staff, to have college students, to have the yoga teachers, to have, the people who just help us on the holidays, the people who just help us at night, instead of having, one kind of staff where they can only do one thing and you're lost the rest of the time. So staffing is definitely something that we're always fine tuning. We're always looking for opportunities to find different kind of staff and, things like that. It really just to make your life easier. That's the whole point. If you were going to do everything, you might as well just not have any staff and then just walk all of the dogs. That's not really the point anymore. So, yeah.
I think one of the stuff that I think, just to kind of touch on that is the biggest fear that people have, is starting a business or company or making that leap. to different jobs. And so once you do that, I think the second fear is, once you figure out website and how do I get LLC or what's my company's name, the second biggest fear that everyone has is, to Amanda's point, we can't clone ourselves. That would be great, but we also need to grow. And so Amanda and I, when we launched in September of 2013, we had maybe 6 walks. Now I say 6 walks, and that was 2 clients. Okay. So not 6 different clients. October maybe doubled, November tripled, December got, maybe 40 walks total. Again, a handful of clients. We come into January of 2014 and it just skyrocketed. We had 118 visits that month. When you're going from 6 in September and in less than 6 months, your numbers are drastically skyrocketing. We were like, wait a minute, obviously there's something here. And we're doing really well. Amanda and I are working around the clock, but it's not feasible. If we walk, even if we work 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. or sleepovers, everything, we couldn't even fulfill it. And so it comes to the next question. And a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners, their next thing they're wondering is, do they hire? And everyone knows the answer is yes. You want to hire, you want to expand, but who, how, who's the perfect fit? Are they going to mesh with the company culture? Are they going to be wonderful client facing? Are they going to have the same love and passion? And I think when you're hiring, for a 9-to-5, a corporate agency job, which I have a lot in the past, this one is very different because we are dealing with not just college kids, but a different spectrum. It is not a typical 9-to-5, so you have to balance their schedule, but you're also entrusting them 100%. After we train, they're going in alone and they're doing their schedule that they have weekly. And so we have to let go of those reins. And we felt like a parent at the time. So we actually hired our first employee in February, after that massive January spike. So we're looking at 5 months once we started the company, we had someone on board. And we love her, Emily. We're actually still keep in touch with her. She graduated, stayed with us in college. She's moved on to doing amazing things. But, we think about her a lot because we put a lot of pressure, and I'm sure she probably seen it, heard it all because we were so nervous. And thankfully, she was such a rock star and she really worked so hard. So our first staff, we got lucky in the sense where we put all our trust into her and we received that back. So I think it's that big fear of, do I hire? How many? They're not going to be like me. What do I do? And I want to just tell everyone that that's okay. They're not going to be like you. You're never going to have that. They don't own the company. They didn't start the company. They don't know what that is like. And it's okay. You can share your story. But some of them, it's also part-time. They're not living and breathing this. Some of them are like, hey, I'm going to college. I'm doing something else. I just want some extra side money, and that's okay too. So I think Amanda and I learned a lot that by building the team, we're allowed to help others. And by giving them that trust, they were able, to be excited and felt like they were their own boss and had their own schedule with their own pets. And so it actually worked out really well, just finding the right people.
Yeah, there are a lot of those initial hurdles. And, you mentioned like you hired your first employee and you were nervous. Both of you were nervous about bringing this person on, even though it sounds like it was something that you had done previously. So maybe talk a little bit more about that. What makes hiring somebody for a pet sitting company, so different and unique?
Yeah, it's different when you're hiring someone for a company that you work for. And when you're hiring someone for a company that's yours, it's just a whole other level of, this has to be right. We don't want to put all of this time into this person if it's not going to be right. We don't want to tell the clients that we're introducing someone to their pets and, that has access to their home and all their personal belongings if it's not right. So the pressure mostly is that, like Lalka said, they're going to be on their own. We're not going to be with them. We can't hold their hand the whole time. We have an extensive training process where we don't send anyone in blind to a home. And so that's something that, we really take pride in and we spend a lot of time in. But at the end of the day, eventually, they are going to be on their own. And so you kind of just have to, pray and hope for the best. And, before you actually put them in that situation, you make sure it's okay and you talk to them. Our interview process, we end up talking to our candidates at least 2 or 3 times to get to know them, not just to, look at their resume, but to also get to know them as a person. At the end of the day, they become part of our family. We communicate with them 24/7. We know about their family, we know about their dreams and their goals and things like that. So it's not just someone that, you're hiring to come clock in somewhere and you train them for an hour or so and you let them, go and you never see them again. It's definitely forming a relationship and you're trusting them with your entire company, which is such a huge thing. So we really try to get to know our employees. And like Lalka was saying, they have to really be interested in the culture of the company. When we hire people who it's just a part-time job to them, that's okay, but they really don't end up staying with us a long time. The ones who end up staying with us a long time are the ones who are so interested in the company. They think it's so cool what we did, or, maybe they want to do something like this one day and they just want to learn from the experience, or maybe they're just absolutely obsessed with animals. And it kind of takes like all of those things to make up, our perfect staff. And when you find someone like that, you get more confident in your interview process because you think, okay, we can find more people like this because they are out there. We're not the only 2 people that feel this way, and so that's sort of the process of, finding the right staff. I mean, it's hard, it's challenging, but there are people out there like that who they just want to love on the animals and they want to do a good job for you too, because they see how much blood, sweat, and tears that we put into this company. And, and they appreciate it. And, it takes a really special person.
And, just to cap that off, people always ask, how do you find the right person? How do you know if you're hiring right? You'll figure that out once you go through the interview process. And again, spend a lot of time. Like Amanda said, we do extensive with interviews, references, background checks, in person. This year we're doing Zoom interviews and then we do in person. So it's a little bit challenging with COVID, but you have to be creative and you still have to do the same thing. We're not going to compromise our process because of this year with the pandemic versus what we've done the last 6 years. But I also say, some people put so much pressure on the hiring process and finding the right person. That's important. But once you do, the most important thing also is to keep them, to make sure they're happy, make sure they feel that they're part of the team, check in, ask them how they're doing. And we also have all our tools set up in terms of our interview. After the interview process, we do one-on-one trainings of all our apps and the programs. We also, Amanda said, we go one-on-one and we train personally to every house. A lot of other companies are like, here, the key's hidden there. Good luck, dog's nice. For us, we do training on all the harnesses, all the leashes. There's just so much. You have to deal with home things as well. People don't think about, oh, that's right. There's a garage code. There's an alarm. There's a special gate. There's someone, upstairs. Like there's just things that you have to deal with, not just pet, but house. And so I think we have to remind everyone that I know we always try to put pressure in the interview and hiring, but have the tools beforehand so that we can equip our staff with that, so that they have a guidebook and be like, what do I do when it is pouring down rain? And I don't, do I walk the dog in the rain? I mean, we get this question all the time. And so in the handbook, you can reference it, be like, oh, I know what to do. So I think it's really important for entrepreneurs, business owners, managers to remember that, that process is difficult and you have to be patient, but you also have to have all the tools to equip them with them. Because I think that sometimes these mistakes that maybe the staff make, and they're innocent, we always, Amanda and I look back every day and we're like, you know what, we should put that in the handbook. That's why it's not there. Or maybe we need to elaborate on it because they didn't understand that. Or we sit there and say, maybe we have to do better time and spend, more time with training and, maybe we rush that process. So we never try to blame the staff. We always try to look back at us and say, what can we do better as managers to give them those tools, because they cannot be successful without us helping them. And, we always put that, pressure on us, because when something goes wrong, I'm like, what could I have done to make that not happen? And honestly, every single one of those mistakes have made us grown, and we try not to make it again. So a lot of our mistakes are one time and we don't want to repeat them. But I think, people worry about team and staff, but if you're equipped on the back end, the process should be as smooth as possible.
So give us a little idea and a little sense of what it's like running a pet care business in Tampa.
So pet care in Tampa is awesome because one thing that, and I don't know if you actually saw this, but it was just released in July through Wallet Hub, that Tampa Bay got voted number 1 most pet friendly in the U.S. And so when we saw and heard that, we jumped up and down, we celebrated, and we were like, this is amazing. That means 100 more million clients are coming our way. And so living in the city that is ranked number 1 for most pet friendly, and we see it all the time, but I don't think that process until it's actually in print. And being able to have so many clientele and in just South Tampa alone. So one fact that we love to tell people that they get so fascinated in, we just deal with South Tampa. So Tampa Bay is massive. We have Tampa around us with St. Pete and Tampa, Brandon. There's so many different areas. But for Amanda and I, we both live in South Tampa, and we both do majority of our walks, pet visits, et cetera, in this area. The area that we cover is a 5-mile radius. So everyone out there that's extremely jealous right now, and they're like, wait, I'm driving 40 miles, or it takes me an hour here and this and that, and everything's spread out. I'm so coming. I was kidding. It's spread out. No, but like Amanda and I are so lucky because we have a very small radius, and that's how dense this area is. And so I emphasize that, which is why I think we got number 1. And obviously it was the Tampa Bay area, but just South Tampa alone, everyone has a pet, a dog or a cat. And if you have a dog, you know what restaurant you're going to. Your dog is going everywhere with you. They're outside, they're playing. There's so many dog parks here. So we're fortunate that the area that we chose to launch this company is an area that we've seen in the last 7 years make it to number 1. We knew it was very dense with the pets here, but it has grown so much. I mean, the money that Vinnick is putting into the city, I mean, you can see the Super Bowl is coming here in February. You know, people are excited about all of that. We're growing extremely fast. And when you come, I don't know if you've been to South Tampa, but it is actually really small. You can learn to drive in a week. And so as exciting that is, and we mentioned that earlier, that Amanda said this city is small. It could be a good thing and bad thing. You do run into everyone. So, if you're not feeling your best or you didn't brush your hair, you just have to be prepared for it. Don't walk your dogs in your pajamas. Like people will comment and laugh about it. But it is such a wonderful city because the one thing that we've noticed is the community here. The market is so great, not just it being pet friendly, but everyone really helps each other. Everyone's so friendly. I think, I always ask myself with Amanda, like, what would the experience like be in a different state? What would this experience like be in another city? Would it be the same? And it's hard to answer that question because we got very lucky, not only with the weather and the 5-mile radius and being ranked number 1, the people here are what keeps us honest as well, because they're really genuine. They're very sweet. People love asking you how your day is. Can I help you out? And don't always see that often. In larger cities, it's a little bit harder because everyone's running around, especially, as a New Yorker, I know that. Your head's down and you're just trying to make it to your next destination. But we're really fortunate to have so many of the check marks and plus when you're looking, if anyone's trying to open a dog walking pet sitting company, we are very fortunate to have such a great community here and so pet friendly. We love it. We talked about all the amazing positive stuff. The one thing that we also always try to reiterate is if it was so easy to start a dog walking business, everyone would be doing it. And we've seen so many companies come and go in the last 7 years, and everyone's like, what happened or why didn't it work? And the things that we hear of the feedback from the community, it's a lot of work. You think about the radius and the weather, and how beautiful it is in Florida and not much driving here in our Tampa area. But when you actually lay it all out, I mean, a lot of clients, it's difficult with some pets that have specific needs, either seizures or medical or diapers, so there's a lot of accidents, there's cleanup. So that's the non-glamorous side. And then we talk about, so the weather is gorgeous, but June, July, and August, I mean, you're roasting out here. You can't even breathe, and you're walking 6, 10, 12 dogs, and you're like getting a tan, but it's not the good kind. The poor pets struggling through that heat as well. And then the house stuff that comes with it, alarms and people home and running around and pets not there. And so it's the everyday things that you go through that we usually don't talk about. The only people that talk about it is other dog walkers and pet sitters, in your forum. But in actuality, it's definitely hard work. And I even look at our staff, they go out there and it could be raining, it's hurricane season, the heat. And so it's so much that you put on your body, and it's a physical job. So people are like, oh, I play with puppies all day. I would love to say we play with puppies all day. We do play with a lot of puppies, but it's not 24/7. So with these also come puppy accidents. So we always tell everyone, I hope you don't like your outfit you're wearing because it will get dirty. But there's a lot that comes to it. So, we kind of talked a little bit about all the awesome positive stuff to it, but it is so much hard work. And that's why, to Amanda's point, you have to love what you do and be so passionate about it, because it is the everyday grind of dealing with so many different types of breeds, temperaments, obviously the clients, the weather, driving around from house to house to house. So it kind of all factors in, but we're very fortunate to have such a great balance.
Something that I wanted to pick both of your brains on here is something that I find really cool, is that you first met back in 2003, as both of you stayed back at Florida State University. What's it been like working together in a business for 7 years now?
Yeah, that's what everybody asks us. And, that's something that everybody kind of wants to know the answer to. And, we talk about it all the time, and it's something that not everybody can do. Obviously, you have to know the person already, and jumping into a business with someone you don't know is something that I would never recommend, but I know people do that. And I'm sure sometimes it works out great. For us, we had, lived together for a long time, which I would highly recommend if you're going to start a business with someone young, like we did, is, maybe you might want to live with that person, because as we all know, you can be best friends with somebody and then you may live with them and you guys might end up hating each other, because, the real deal comes out when you actually live with someone, and that's the truth. And so, we had already lived together. We had lived together in New York. And so, that was sort of already under our belt, and we knew, each other very well, obviously. So, that was something that was already something major that we had been through. And also just finding somebody that you 100% trust. And that sounds really simple, but at the end of the day, there aren't a lot of people like that. The leading foot, like we talked about already for this job, is happiness, and it's definitely not money. And so if your leading foot with this business is money, and one of you really cares about money and the other doesn't really, or you both really care about money, that's going to be a recipe for disaster. For Lalka and I, we're both, just very honest. When things are tough, things are tough, and we agree, and we're like, let's get through this together. When things are great, it's like, yay, we did that. That's awesome. Pat on the back. And, the advantage of running a company with your friend is that you can high five each other. We talk about a lot of these other companies that it's one man show, which, is completely understandable, but they don't really have anyone to lean on except, maybe their family members or their other friends. But what Lalka and I found out really quickly was when you talk to your friends and your family about this business, they don't understand it because they're not in it. And people are like, what is it so hard? It's dog walking. Like, get a grip. Like, why are you guys stressed? Or why are you always working? Or just hire someone to do that, And it's like, we are doing our best. And, it's harder than it sounds. You're dealing with hundreds of clients, you're dealing with all of these staff. And so, having each other to lean on has definitely, helped in that. And, when you're stressed out, it's like, okay, you're having a stressful day. Let me take this. Or, okay, we're doing really great. Let's have a day off, or I'm going to cover this and you cover that. And, we hear, like I said, we talk to dog walkers all the time in our area and we're good friends with them. And they always say, well, but you guys have each other. And they'll say, they'll complain and they'll say, yeah, but you do that and you do that. And it's like, you're right. Like sometimes you take it for granted. It's like, yeah, sometimes, we do pick up slack, and sometimes, it's, and it's important to do that and being selfless in it. Lalka and I, like, we both love this company equally. It's not like one of us is out to lunch and the other, is like, I'm obsessed with this. It's like, we're both on the same level. And so she knows when she's away, everything's great. I know when I'm away, everything's great. And we don't have to worry about it. And, just being fully transparent and being honest with each other, that is the main thing. And I mean, it is a challenge owning a business, and, we go through a lot, but we go through it together, and it's never like we feel alone. And I think it would be really hard feeling alone sometimes in this business, because it can be lonely. I can see how it could be lonely if you were doing it on your own, for sure.
I think the one thing that really worked for Amanda and I, and this might not work for everyone, but I think what was really great is that we are polar opposites on so many different things. I can talk to a wall for like 19 hours and Amanda's like, no, thank you. And she likes to crunch numbers and be on the back end from all her merchandising experience. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I'd rather do marketing and front facing stuff because that's what I'm used to. And she's used to a lot of her stuff it goes all the way back to our previous jobs. And so the great thing about it is that we listed everything down of what we all like and what we want to manage, so that I'm not doing something that, I'm not really that interested in. And Amanda loved it. So we had to make sure to create that separation. So everything that she loved and wanted to be a part of and that she wanted to take the lead on, I was like, go ahead. That's awesome. And vice versa. And there would be things that, we each jump in and help, because obviously you need all hands on deck when it comes to things, because it's a lot, it's overwhelming. But I think that's the most important thing as business owners. If you do have a partner, sit down before you start anything. I know you're going to be like, what should we name the company? No. Take a step back. Forget the name. Think about each other's roles. Like, what role do you play with this company, and what will you contribute that you love, that'll make you happy, and that it won't sacrifice while you're working so hard? Because nothing is worse than busting your butt. You're putting 12, 15-hour days, you're working 60, 80-hour weeks, and you're not happy. And you're just staying with it because it's a company you started and you're hoping something will change. Well, it won't change if you're not changing the way you operate. And so it's really important to be strategic. This goes back to us having all the tools for our staff. Amanda and I needed the tools for ourselves. So we're starting a company, and it was like, well, what do you like? What do I like? I'll do that. I'll take that. We started with a to-do list. 7 years later, we don't need a real to-do list. It's more like, I'm going to run with this, she's going to run with that. And we both kind of just separate, divide, and conquer. But I think that's the great thing, is that yin and yang with our personality and what we love, that's what works really well. If you're going to have 2 extroverts in a room or 2 introverts, it's going to be harder. Can it be done? Absolutely. But I think you have to outline everything in the very beginning before you jump right in, and the point to other dog walking companies, we love setting up monthly coffees. Now with COVID, it's a little bit harder, but Amanda and I would do happy hours with a lot of other companies. People are like, that's crazy. You're sitting with your competitors. They're not our competitors. This is family. We all love animals. And some of the best laughter has come from these sit downs, because we all sit and we can vent and have that amazing circle of trust and love. And no one's going to understand it. Like Amanda said, your parents, your significant other, your family, your friends, they are going to appease you. They smile and nod and they're like, okay, I think she'll be done soon. But we can go on and on and on. But when we sit down with other dog walking and pet sitting companies, it's so refreshing. Of course, they have to have the same mind like us. We're not competitors, we're family. We have come across other companies. You feel, they're a little bit nervous and they go that competition route. But the ones that do sit with us, it's really, I think they lean on us a lot too, because Amanda and I have each other and they don't. So when they hang out with us and we sit there for hours and hours and talk, they're like, thank you so much. We needed that because we don't have anyone else to vent to or ask, like, what do you do in this situation? Or how much do you pay for that? Or where do you have a good vendor for this? We share all our resources. I mean, we sit down with some other companies. We're 7 years, they're 10 years, 12 years, 15 years. I mean, they have longevity versus us. But I think with us having the background that we do, work so well together, and there's two of us, people really do like sitting down and we can kind of just talk about everything. And that's something that we're extremely fortunate of. And we have to remind ourselves that having two brains is better than one.
It is. And it's as Amanda, you said, like, it's trusting. And Lalka, it's trusting their strengths, right? And trusting that these motives are there with the other person, that they're good, that you have best interests at heart. And that's really hard to get, especially with somebody that you don't know. So the fast track business school, room with your business partner, I guess, for a little bit to see if it's going to work out. and go.
I think we roomed together because we had no money because we drained our savings to start the account. I think that's the truth of it. But Amanda's right. You want to see, are they putting their laundry away, and who's doing the dishes?
Yeah, absolutely. It does show you a lot of stuff, but it just gets down to like getting to know that person and building that trust in that relationship. So, you've got these work hats that you wear, and you've got these friendship hats that you also wear. How do you create a balance or dividing line between those and to maintain a healthy balance?
I think that was our toughest thing that we had to kind of figure out together. And the only way to do it is a slow process day to day. The benefit of Amanda and I being roommates in the beginning was really awesome because instead of texting and calling each other, say you did not live together, we were next to each other on the couch, surrounded by all our dogs with our laptops and just figuring out all the problems, putting a plan, marketing, strategizing, and we were with each other. So it was 24/7. So initially building a company and having that close proximity was only a benefit to both of us. It doesn't mean everyone should move out and live with your business partner. It worked for us because we wanted to obviously save money, but doing this together really helped because it was 24/7. And when you're starting a business, your first year to two, I would say first year to 3, but mainly your first year, it is 24/7. And you are learning so much and you are making a lot of mistakes, but you hope to only make that mistake once, like I said. So that was something that we really benefited from. But once we got the company up and running, we had a team, we realized that if we live together, we actually are going to work too much. And you do have to take a break and you do have to take that hat off. And so when we obviously moved out and we got our own places, it forced us to actually stop having that work talk. And we were talking about work 24/7 so that we can have, those personal friendship conversations. We had the same friends from college, so we'd go hang out. And it was really nice to actually not talk about work. So it is something that you have to separate. It is hard to divide. There are times Amanda and I would be out to dinner and we'd be talking about, this new movie that came out. And I'd be like, on the side, be like, oh my God, did you see that chat from the client? We should respond to it. And then we get into a work conversation and we have to stop ourselves because we're like, no, we're out. We're trying to have fun. It's our night off, So I think it's really hard to shut off work mode, especially as an entrepreneur. But if you don't separate it, it's extremely difficult. So it was nice to have that life together in the beginning to kick this off. And I think that's what made us learn much faster because we were able to have that, togetherness time. But once we got it up and running and we felt more comfortable where we don't have to sleep, breathe, eat, SoHo Hound, it was nice to kind of go our separate ways, start our life with new families and friends and significant others and, share those experiences and, not just make this whole thing about work. Because I think that's the hard part. If you just have it about work, it makes it more stressful.
Yeah, it's about creating that space, both physically, like you guys did, like, okay, we're creating this physical space. We're also going to create space with time So we've got these office hours, we've got these work hours that we can have. We know when we're off the clock what we're going to talk about, what we're not, to keep that going and to keep those hats separate, because it's really important. You don't want to ruin a good friendship relationship with a bad working relationship, and vice versa.
Pet Perennials makes it easy as 1, 2, 3 to send a heartfelt condolence gift directly to someone with a broken heart. They have this awesome direct-to-client gift service that takes the effort off of us and ensures a thoughtful, personalized sympathy gift reaches our client or employee. All gift packages include a handwritten card, colorful gift wrap, and shipping fees across the U.S. and Canada. Now, they just launched a brand new offering of an array of milestone gifts and greeting cards that can be sent to celebrate special moments people share with their pets. If you're interested, register for a free account to receive a discounted package pricing rather than pay consumer prices. Since the service is leveraged as an as-need basis, there are no monthly or annual obligations or minimum purchase. Learn more and register using petperennials.com/pages/GPS. Enter the referral code PSC at registration, and you'll get a unique coupon code to save $2 off any packages that you'll send in your first 90 days.
If there's a listener right now thinking about going into business with a good friend, or maybe they are already in business with a friend, what kind of advice would you give to them to be successful in that?
That is something that you have to make sure that you are both 100% all in. And I think that's probably one of the most important things. Is it's okay to try something, and it's okay also for it to not work out. But if you are both not in it 100% and somebody else is doing more work than the other, I think that would be, really stressful. Doing something that you both entirely love, would be the most important part of it. And doing something new would be, is even more challenging. If it's something that, you already do and you want to join forces and do together, that to me would be a lot easier. But doing something new is just, and having fun with it. We learn so much along the way. Like Lalka said, we learn stuff every day, but you have to be able to have someone that you are comfortable making mistakes in front of. We learn new things all the time, and we'll mess things up, or, I'll say, okay, I'll take care of that. And then I do it, and it is a disaster. And it has to be, with someone where you're like, okay, I did this and I need help, or this was my best shot. Like, I need someone else, or we need to find someone to help us with that, or we don't know how to do this. Neither of us do. Like, we need to reach out and pay someone to do that, or pay someone to show us how to do it, because at the end of the day, you're really just making it up all as you go. And everything's new, from, bookkeeping to, Lalka had a marketing background, but, not a dog walking marketing background. And so, she's taking those things and use it for dog walking. But, from building a website to, finding apps, trying apps, using apps that, didn't work, and, moving on to the next one. But, having humility, I think, is such a big part of it. If you have a business partner that, you are intimidated by or stressed out by, and you're like, oh God, like, I was supposed to take care of this, but it doesn't look good, or it's not great, or they're not going to like that. I think that would be just really detrimental. And I don't think that it would last that long. But if you have someone you're like, oh, hey, like, I learned this, or did you see this on, the new app, or, I tried this out and it worked really great. I think that part of it is fun. And at the end of the day, you want it to be fun. It's so much more fulfilling when it's fun and not just like, oh, here we go again. Like, we have to do this. It's, what's the point if you're not having fun with it? And it's dogs, so really, come on, there's nothing more fun than dogs. Well, to us.
And, I think if the, listener was reaching out to us and they said, hey, I haven't started a company, but my best friend and I are talking about it. before thinking of, and I always say the name because I feel like that's where everyone starts. They're like, okay, we're going to start this business. What should we call it? Like, that's because it's fun. Everyone's excited. But I think the first step, and like I said before, is sit down and have a real conversation. And the real conversation is, we may start this and this may fail. So what would your feeling be on that? Hey, we may start this and we're going to make $10. How do you feel about that? Hey, we may start this and we don't agree on something. What's our best approach? Hey, we're going to start this company and we're going to fight. Should we walk away? Should we wait an hour? Should we just hash it out then? So I think the, bottom line is have an open, honest conversation with that person that you want to start the company with. And if you are already in, the position where you both have the company together and you're struggling, it's okay. I think the one thing with Amanda and I, we each can tell when one of us is more tired than the other. And so we'll say, take a break, take a day off, go relax, we could see your head spinning. So I'll take over and then you take over, another time. And I think that's important when it comes to a business relationship that you're already in, is knowing the other person and what are their limits or when they need a break, because it is a lot. And sometimes my limits may be more than Amanda's. Amanda's may be higher in certain things than mine. And so it's trying to find that balance, but reading your partner, your business partner, and being able to know that's like, hey, let's take a break or let's table this conversation. So it always goes back to honesty no matter what, but it's being a great team member where you can actually, instead of worrying about all the stuff they didn't do, focus on the stuff they have and help them out to either elevate the other things that are sitting and waiting and work as a team together. Or if they need time off and have, it's just stressful and overwhelming, or they have other things personally going on, that's okay. And so it's important to just come together during those really tough times. And instead of fighting and disagreeing, it's really taking a step back, analyzing everything, come back together and work as a team and remind each other, why did you start this company? What was it that brought us two together to make this happen, and how much work we've already invested? And so right now we're focusing on the small stuff like, wait, you didn't do that and you forgot to pay that and I told you to research that, or whatever those conversations are. Forget about it, because you have to remember that you two started this company together and there was a reason and there was a foundation, and that has been lost, during that journey. And so you have to go back to day one and remember why you started that. And if you come to a point where you're like, maybe one of the, someone might not be in it as much as they were before, that's actually okay. That goes back to being honest. And so the other person needs that opportunity to figure out what their next step is if they're fully invested. So, all of that is okay, but it just goes back to honesty and really just working as a team during the hard times.
Yeah. And I like hearing that, because it's creating a space that each of you has confidence and security enough in each other and in the relationship to fail, to try new things, and to be honest about that, to go, hey, this isn't really working out for me anymore. Or, hey, I think you need to take a break, and trusting and knowing that the other person has your best interests at heart at the end of the day, and they want to see it succeed just as much as you do. And remember that in those hard and those tough times.
For sure. It doesn't work out if both of you are stressed out, and, it's best to just sort of play out each other's strengths and, recognize all of that. Because at the end of the day, it's not brain surgery. We're not saving lives. We're taking care of animals, and, it's rewarding. And that's what it's supposed to be. So when you're getting stressed about the little things, like Lalka said, about, paying this bill or, doing this task, it's like, wait, let's take it back. Why are we doing this? It's for the animals. Let's go walk a dog. Let's pet a dog. Let's go see a cat, because that's why we're doing this in the first place.
Take turns. If you need to get a calendar and be like, okay, Monday, you can be grumpy and I'll rock it out. And then Tuesday, I'm going to be grumpy and you rock it out. I feel like maybe sometimes you just have to take turns. And I think this actually goes for even relationships, but I think it's good to have that balance and swapping out, because if you're both having a bad day, on the same day, it just makes things a little bit harder. So I would say rotate the days a little.
Thinking about some of your favorite resources that you've used over the years that you use in your business, maybe that you first started off learning from or that you use to this day, what are some of your favorites that more people need to be reading, listening to, or using?
I love this question a lot because I'm an avid reader. I live for a podcast. When I'm not playing with puppies, I'm addicted to any crime podcast. For anyone out there that has any recommendations for more, I'm running out. And so I think that resources, when it comes to reading, podcasts, connecting with the community, all of them are so crucial. So I want to talk a little bit about actually this podcast because we came across it later than I wanted to be honest. I wish we were there on episode 1 with you guys because just listening to each one back to back, I mean, it's kind of fun because we have a lot to catch up on. So we've been trying to listen to all of them, but this podcast was so informative. And it took like a minute for us to be like, wow, we really forgot about something in this aspect, or wow, we never thought about that. Or we did think about it. That was 7 years ago. We should bring this back to the table. So, I do want to start off by saying a podcast like this is what keeps us excited and going. We are in a podcast world now. This was not here 7 years ago. If it was, it would have been awesome because we would have listened to you and maybe our job would have been a lot easier, but when it comes to listening and catching up to everything now, and I feel like podcasts got crazy in the last couple of years, this is something that we really, really, really love. And so we connect with so many different ones. We have not besides you guys, but, we also listen to Bella in Your Business, who she talks about a lot of dog walking stuff. Kristen Lee, Mind Your Own Dog Business. That's also a great podcast as well. So I think it's important to try so many different ones. You hear different perspectives, different angles. They have different guests. And so you're able to learn about so many different ones. But honestly, this one right here is the one that got us really excited. We talk about the one that it was episode 59 and it was with Natasha O'Banion, and she has some really great advice. And, one thing that I will not forget about that, the reason why I remember number 59 is because when she told me or told the world that she does a 10 to 4 gig Monday through Friday, I was like, what the hell am I doing wrong? And I started laughing and I texted Amanda. I'm like, we're closing the company. That's it. We're not working before 10. We're not working after 4. And I was like, wait, I'm not, I don't have kids. I don't know if I can do that. And our poor clients, they would be so sad. And so, it was really fun listening to it. But I think what I learned from that podcast specifically was not about me changing, our business strategy to fit to hers. It was reminding us, what can we do to scale it, to make sure that we are doing the right thing for us. And so, we're kidding. We're not going to close down and just do 10 to 4, but it was a really great reminder of how Amanda and I have our hands into everything. We are constantly, part of the conversation with our client, part of the conversation with our staff. And I think, that podcast reminded us to just take a minute and, lean more on the managers, let the staff be, a little more self-sufficient, not being 24/7 available to our clients. And it's not a bad thing. It just means we have a life and they want that for us. And they don't even realize that, if you email us at 5 a.m., well, I get up that early. So I'm always responding back. And so I'm creating the madness too. So I'm part of that problem. And I think, listening to a podcast like that and others, it just reminds you of things that you're doing and what can you change and how can you grow. And it's really nice just to hear other people's feedback because you're sitting there when I'm listening to it in my car or walking the dog, I'm like, we're not crazy. They're going through the exact same thing. And so I think that we love that. It's a virtual community and to connect to so many different states, from my living room or in my car. I think that is the gift of podcasts. So I'm preaching a lot on podcasts, but I do love it. And I think that's great. The other thing that we highly recommend is what vendors are you using? So if you're using Time to Pet for your app, like they have such great articles. They do client spotlights. They have such great feedback. They're also connected with so many different companies, talk to them, see what their newsletters are like. What insurance company do you use? Pet Sitters Associates is who we use. And so we get feedback and information from them. They have forums that we use. There's a lot of Facebook groups. So we encourage, going through all that. If you're thinking of starting a company, be part of that now. You don't have to purchase all of that. You can literally just learn on Facebook groups, make phone calls, ask for just an information meeting. People really love that. They want to inspire others. They want to help. There's a lot of people that actually would love to help. So I think it's just making that phone call, dropping that email, setting up that coffee chat. The other thing is shelters. Like we said, we work with Humane Society and the Pet Resource Center, the county shelter, just talking to them and touring their shelters and learning what their everyday life is and what they need and how we can help as a company and use this platform to promote rescues is something that we're so fortunate. And so even connecting with them, we've learned so much, and plus they also have team members that are part-time there and they want to be part-time dog walkers. So even connecting to get, build your team up in that community is extremely helpful. But the only other thing is reading. I think that's fundamental. That is extremely important. And the one book that has got me through a lot of this from a business perspective, and it's one of my favorites, and I literally hand it out like candy, or I tell everyone to download it and read it, but Tony Hsieh's book, which is called Delivering Happiness. I don't know if you read it, but he's one of the founders from Zappos, and he talks solely about company culture and quitting working for different companies so that he could find happiness in what he does. And he did accomplish that today. And he has been doing it for, so many years now. But when you read the book, you hear his story from the start to end and how he gave up so much money. And I'm talking millions of dollars, just to find happiness. Well, others would have stayed in his job, worked for Microsoft, those big corporate companies, and they would be like, absolutely not, I'm not getting rid of my bonus, or I'm going to stay here 6 more months so I can get my bonus and then I'm going to quit. And so he talks about the journey of how everyone that's finding their way through just that financial footing is not going to be happy, and making that leap early on, because some people don't want to take that risk. They're very nervous to make that leap. And so if you stay, the longer you stay, you'll be shocked that sometimes you're like, wait, why am I here a year later? I thought I was going to quit a year ago. And sometimes, making that leap is when you're excited, you're ready, just do it. And he talks about that journey. So I really recommend that book, because I think it's something that people need to understand, that someone who had the opportunity to make millions would turn it down so that they can just build a company from the ground up. And, full circle, he is making millions. So it all works out and benefit. But he talks a lot about company culture. And Zappos has been featured on every single, Fortune 100, 500 company. People are following their ethos. People are even writing, texting, emailing, finding out like, what do you guys do differently? How can I bring that to the table? And when he talks about his interview process and getting to know people and just asking personal questions, and having an HR person for the business, but then having a company culture person interview to see if you're, if you mesh with the company. And I think that's really important. And when Amanda and I do the hiring process, we want to be like, we're talking to this person every day. Can we connect with them? Can we envision talking all the time and emailing and having, them at staff events and volunteer events? So, that book, is something that's really great for those who want to feel inspired and they're not sure how to maybe make that first step. I think it's a great book to start with.
I'll make sure and have links to everything that you've included in the show notes and on the webpage so people can go and listen to those. And thank you so much for your kind words about this podcast. It really does. It means an awful lot to know that it's having that impact. And Natasha's awesome. I would love every time I get to talk with her about all that stuff.
She's so fun. Yeah.
And that's our goal: bring a diversity of backgrounds, voices, and influences, and get people to telling their stories, because it's something that we all need, especially in years like 2020. And so we're really thankful for that, for the opportunity, and for you guys coming on today. I know we kind of blitzkrieged through 7 years of a lot of work, hard work, and stuff that you two have been working on. So I know there's a lot of questions left out there. If listeners want to get connected, follow along, and see everything that you are doing, how best can they do that?
The best way is to follow our Instagram. and it's just at SoHo Hound, one word. You can see all of our clients, all of our staff, all the fun things we do, all the events we attend, all the events that we throw, and things like that. And also, if they want to get in touch with us, they can go to our website, and it is sohohound.com.
Awesome. Really cool. Thank you two so much for coming on today. It's been a real pleasure. I love hearing your story and how you guys are working together to make a really awesome business that both of you are so passionate about, and that it's feeding you and making sure that you guys are living that dream and living that happiness. I love the story. So thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we appreciate it so much.
We know how hard it is to put all this together. So we love the fact that you are connecting everyone via this podcast. So we're thankful.
Thank you so much.
I had two big takeaways from my conversation with Amanda and Lalka. The first one was to have confidence in yourself, that you are enough and that you are capable. That really struck a chord with me, especially going through last year when there was a lot of self-doubt going on. It's still true today, so I hope that you're able to take that one away with you as well. The second one is that if you're going to go into business with a friend, to have good boundaries, to have good systems in place, and to trust the other person. Trust is so key in everything that we do. It's at the core of our business. Clients trust us to take care of their pets, to be reliable, to be moral, to be ethical. We have to extend that same trust, and even more so, to our friends, to our family, to those that we bring into our business to take part into that. We bring them in for a reason, we recognize their strength, and then we trust them to accomplish the goals that they have and that we all want to see success in the business. A big thank you to this week's sponsors, Time to Pet and Pet Perennials, and a huge thank you to you for listening, for sharing, and for being part of this growing community. Megan and I thank you so much for your support and for your generosity and for tuning in every single week. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we'll be back again on Monday.